welcome back to Spilling the Paint Water. My name is Chloe Rose, but I go by Chloe Rose Art on YouTube, so if you do enjoy this artsy podcast, please feel free to check me out there, Chloe Rose Art, or you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Art of Chloe Rose. Today I am joined with the insanely talented Linda Blacker. Now Linda is a highly successful UK-based photographer who has not only photographed a multitude of well-known British YouTubers like Zoella and Dan and Phil, but she's also well known for her stunning portraits showcasing real bodies. She loves to show the beauty in what the general media view as flaws, so she's very real, she's very raw, and also insanely talented at set and prop design. She's worked with organisations like Stand Up to Cancer, huge companies like Warner Bros and Sky, and has also stepped foot into the movie world, photographing the likes of Bill Skarsgard, who plays Pennywise in the new It movies. Linda has a huge fountain of knowledge to share whether you're a photographer or other creative about getting started in the industry. You can find Linda on Twitter and Instagram as @LindaBlacker, and I really hope you enjoy today's episode. Okay, so today I am joined with Linda Blacker, who is one of my favourite photographers of all time. Linda, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for such a lovely intro. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's just great to have you on. I've been really excited to talk to you for a really long time now.
Oh, thank you. I think your work's amazing as well. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Starting off, for anyone that's not familiar with your work, please tell me kind of how you got into photography in the first place. I'd love to know your background a little bit.
Well, firstly, let me just explain. If I keep touching my ears, because my earphones just keep falling out, so I'm just going to be doing that a lot. But I got into photography. I went to college, and literally was like trying to find because you do like A levels. Well, I don't know if it's changed now, but I did 4 A levels, and I did not have a clue what to do for my 4th A level. So I was like, and I walked past the photography because I picked art as one of them, and then I walked past the photography department, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good," and I literally just I just added it because I thought it'd be fun. And then I did it at college, and it was okay. Like I feel like at college, well, at the time, you kind of just spoke about photographers like in a very like theory way. I didn't even know how to use my camera manually by the time college was over. So when I left college, I was kind of like, I wanted to be a director. Very random. Right. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just like, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. I was kind of someone that I just wanted to do what I would enjoy, and I wasn't quite sure what that was yet. And I ended up being a runner on a film set, a very small film set that I won't name because it was so bad. But and then the director let me use his camera to do some stills. Right. And I kind of realized, doing photography outside of college, I really, really enjoyed it. And it was just like this moment where I was like, oh, I like this. And then I just started exploring it from there. And then obviously it snowballed into me discovering that I could do the work that I do now, that kind of side of photography. I think when you're at college, it's kind of just like, I don't know, it felt a bit like, this is photography, study these artists, and it was all sort of in a box. Whereas when I left, it was like this whole world. And so that's how it was. It's not really like anything exciting. It was just sort of by accident. And I'm not one of those people that had a camera from like 3 years old. I literally first picked up a camera like 17 at college.
That's
kind
so
of like
cool.
Casually.
So did you kind of like have to do a lot of searching on the web or like watching tutorials, or do you just kind of teach yourself mostly?
So I actually these headphones are so annoying. I actually assisted. Well, so what I did is you learn a bit at college. So I had a camera because I bought one for college, and then I kind of I don't know, I kind of just like started shit. Someone on the film was like, oh, could you take my headshots? I was like, yeah. And then I started doing that, and I kind of learned through practice. And then I did assist a few wedding photographers. Weddings isn't my thing. Obviously it is for some people, but I quickly learned I didn't really vibe with it. But it did mean that I was, there wasn't a pressure because I was the assistant, but I did need to learn how to kind of shoot fast and understand, like, change my camera very quickly and picking up like that. So actually I learned kind of the basics of the camera through assisting in wedding photography, and then the stuff that I do now, I kind of just kept trying different things. I had an idea, I'd try and shoot it, kind of just keep practicing and then getting better that way, which is why some of my earlier stuff that I put on the internet is just really bad, but
That's so cool. I when I started YouTube, I had no idea how to use a camera other than like, just point and shoot. Here we go. That's how I started with it. And then I got my first DSLR camera and I was like, oh, what are all these settings? I don't understand. Why am I like all like slow now? And then I had to learn everything. And I've been using a DSLR now for probably like 4 years, and I still have moments where I'm just like, what? There's so much to learn. There's so many
There is so
settings.
much. There
I
is so
admire
much.
people that know. It's just
Yeah.
like one setting affects the other setting. Then you have to make sure the ISO isn't too high. And then if the ISO is a certain standard, the aperture has to be closed more and all that stuff. So,
But you know what though? Like you do, like it feels like that sometimes. And when I first started, I thought it was that. But really, you need to focus on aperture, shutter, and ISO. And then from there, once you really like focus on those two things, and you nail them, the other stuff is kind of just like you learn as well. Like it's. I feel like a lot of photographers feel intimidated when they first start photography, but it's quite, you pick it up quickly. And still there's stuff on the camera that like I don't even use.
yeah.
I'm like I don't even know what that is.
I think a lot of people don't realize how photographers really, depending on the environment, they have to change so much. It's not just like, oh, the camera's fine in this environment. It's just so much to change. So I just think it's really cool. Anyone that knows how to use a camera so well.
Oh, thanks.
I can definitely tell that you had like a background in art. And I'll get more into that later on, like with your Fiona and the donkey stuff, because that's amazing. But like, I noticed that you say that you don't use stock images for your photos. And if anyone looks at Linda's work on her Instagram, for example, so many people that you photograph, I was going to say photograph, have these beautiful environments behind them. And I know some pictures I've seen from you before, you've actually like painted certain things in yourself. I'd love to kind of hear a bit about your process with that, how you take a picture of someone and turn it into what you do.
Yeah. So I think that's happened the most because of lockdown.
Right.
Because I think before then I would I always kind of added stuff in, but a lot of the time I would kind of shoot people in a scene and then kind of maybe add some like additional details. Whereas with lockdown, it's a case of taking people from like absolutely nothing into something. And when I first did it, I kind of just thought, Joe, I'm going to give it a go, because we was in lockdown and I was like, there's nothing else to do. And I'd already done some self-portraits called like a part of a painting recreation series, where I basically turned myself into famous paintings. And I did that just by shooting against a wall in my kitchen and then adding everything in after. So I thought, well, maybe with lockdown I can do a remote shoot, someone's just in their lounge, and then do the same thing. And I kind of thought it was a bit ridiculous when I first thought of it. I was like, it's not going to work. But I did it, I tried, and it did work. And yeah, I don't use stock images, not because I think there's anything wrong with it. I think loads of photographers do, and that's absolutely fine. I think for me, I just like to have everything that I've taken. That's just my personal preference. And I also find it quite fun having to like shoot what's going to go into the picture. But it's difficult to say the process, because if I'm honest, it's something that I just sort of experimented with and now know how to do. But I'm not really an editor that's like has like a process that's like, sorry about my headphones, although they're so annoying.
Oh, you're
fine. I'm not like some people, or there's some types of art, I feel like you can be quite specific with your like sequence. Like with my when I made the sculpture, it's kind of like there's a sequence I follow, whereas with editing sometimes it's quite like I don't think I'll ever be able to do tutorials, because sometimes it's just completely chaotic. But basically how I start it is I get the image that I want of the person, so we do it remotely. I set up a camera. Well, I get them to set up the camera, I get them to download a software, and then I can see exactly what they're shooting. It's like a Canon EOS utility software. And it means that I can see all their camera settings, everything, and I can tell them exactly what to do. So they don't have to know anything about photography, anything about their camera. And I've already sent them a doc in advance to like be able to set up their camera, because some people don't know at all how to use it, which is fair enough, because they're not photographers. And so all I need to do is get a good base image of a shot that they like. It's well lit, and I can sort of visualize it in the final image. Then I take that and I literally start by just kind of I like playing around with different things. So sometimes like I've got like pictures of like ponds, for example, or water, or like trees, and then I'll like pop a tree in or pop a background in, and then I'll move it all around. And at first, like if you saw the early stage of these pictures, they look ridiculous. It's just like cut and paste like collage. But then I slowly lay everything out where I want it to be. And then I start, when I've got the basic layout, that's when I start building up on the lighting, so to make it look realistic, because if I didn't do that step, it would be quite obviously all put together.
Right.
And that's when I like try and create like a light source digitally. So sometimes I actually make the image, so I'll duplicate the image and bring down the brightness so it's really, really dark on top of the other image which is a normal brightness. And then I'll literally erase everything to create like new lighting, which that's
so
how I do
cool.
it. And people do things differently, but I've never really people are like, oh, you should do it this way, you should do it this way. But for me, I'm just like, I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it, because I think that's what everyone should do when they're creating. I think you should just have fun. And then I build up from there, and I have like an iPad that I do like the details on, and like, because sometimes when you're cutting in stuff and pasting it, like you might look at the edge of like something, like for example someone's hair, and it's difficult to get it completely cut out well sometimes. So sometimes you just lose bits.
I know with my thumbnails my hair's just like
it's really hard hard to do. So with my iPad I tend to draw back in hair and like do that, which helps with those little details and stuff like that. But yeah, it's basically I just have a lot of fun. There's a lot of like, the image usually is, so I go between Lightroom and Photoshop. So it's like I open the image in Lightroom and then open it into Photoshop from Lightroom, and then I do an edit, and then it goes back. And sometimes some of those pictures have like 50 stages, and that's not 50 stages inside the image. Like each image has different layers, as like each of those stages I've had like stages in as well on Photoshop. So it's a very, I wish I could give like more of a detailed way I do it, but it really is just like having fun. And then I combine digital manipulation. Like if I add a photo of a flower, it doesn't necessarily say the same as I shot it. Might manipulate it to look different, and then I might add like paint over it on my iPad. There's not really I just keep working on it until I think it looks good, and then sometimes I think it looks good, and then I come back the next day and I'm like, it doesn't look good.
Art's like that too. You're drawing, it's like no. What was I thinking?
So that's pretty much the process of how I kind of take people from plain backgrounds to, or sometimes like just in their lounge, to the final product. And so far everyone has worked out. I do have some stressful ones where I'm like, it's not going to work, and then it does. It gets there in the end.
That's good. I think you were so creative, because obviously in the UK they did have the lockdowns, you weren't able to do certain things, and I just think it's really cool that you came up with that concept of getting people to do it remotely, and then like the quality of images is still like top tier. Like you'd never even know that you weren't there. So I think that just shows your range of talents there, and your skill set.
Thanks. I was really pleased that it worked, if I'm honest. And it made me realize that sometimes you can just try stuff. I think the fact that there was no pressure for me the first time I had the idea, because I was like, okay, so if I shoot with someone and it doesn't work, they've only sort of spent half an hour in front of a camera with me, and it was like, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. Whereas if I'd done it at a studio where I'd got a studio that just had a white background, and I wanted to try something like this, and I had to the person comes in for the whole day, I've got like makeup artists, everything, it's a bit more of it was more pressure to get it right. So I never wanted to try it, and then I think lockdown kind of provided me with an opportunity to try doing stuff like that. So it kind of happened, and I kind of took the risk, and it worked. So I'm happy. Hopefully it'll keep working.
Today's episode is kindly sponsored by Apostrophe, a prescription skincare company for people that are ready to take their acne seriously. Now, I've actually been using Apostrophe myself for retin-A, not actually for acne, but for anti-aging. I'm getting to the age now where I want to start taking better care of my skin in the form of anti-aging, because prevention is always better and more effective than remedying. So whether you're worried about acne or anti-aging problems, Apostrophe has you covered. Essentially, Apostrophe is this awesome board-certified dermatologist online, so no physical in-person appointments. Your prescription skincare treatment is shipped directly to your door, and as somebody who has not left their house since March 2020, This is awesome for me. Now, they have a huge range of skincare products and services they offer, whether it's anti-aging to help wrinkles, acne, dark spots, reducing redness, and more. Normally, you have to see a doctor, sit in line at a pharmacy and wait, but with Apostrophe, your dermatologist is online. You fill out the questionnaire about your skin concerns and medical history, take selfies of your skin, and your dermatologist will get back to you with a customized treatment plan tailored for you. They also offer both topical and oral medications as well. Once I submitted my photos and my skin concerns, my dermatologist got back to me so quickly with my treatment plan, and it was shipped to me really quickly. And I have it sent to me every 3 months or so on auto ship. Best part is I didn't have to call or talk to anyone on the phone because I hate that. My skin has improved significantly since I've been using it. It's much smoother, and any fine lines that like to start developing on my forehead due to me getting older or being dehydrated, they have lessened significantly. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/paintwater and click begin visit. Then use the code paintwater at sign up and you'll get $15 off your dermatology visit. That's apostrophe.com/paintwater for $15 off. And thank you so much to Apostrophe for sponsoring today's episode. I'd love to talk a bit more about your like artistic background with the whole, you know, you did the portrait with Elsa from Frozen, and then you had a little Olaf there that you'd made, and then you also did one with Fiona from Shrek with little donkey there. And I genuinely thought it was just like photo manipulation. I had no idea until obviously I saw the video. You physically made it with foil and all the other stuff, and then you painted it, and they're so accurate. Like they don't,
thank you.
like some people can do stuff like that and you can tell it's a bit off, or it's a little bit, you know, not quite, but that is literally perfect, you know. So they're so good. Do you have like that background in art? Is it something you've done your whole life, or is it just you're just really good at it?
Thanks. So I think I've always drawn, actually. Now I don't, funnily enough, but I always drew from a very young age. That was what I loved the most. That's what I was good at. You know, like when like you're the friend that draws. That was me. I was the friend which probably is you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was something that I always did, always loved. But when I got to college and I discovered, like, well, I didn't really vibe with photography that much at college, but after, when I realized what the potential was, you know, for photography, I really sort of left drawing and painting behind. I was sort of like, oh, it's fun, but like this is more me. And then I was obviously been doing photography for ages, and there's been times where I've made backdrops and things like that and added things in. But it was only really in the last, I mean, I've always done stuff like where I've maybe painted a backdrop or made some props and stuff like that, but I've never really shown my like audience online. I've never really, I didn't think anyone would really be that interested, and I was sort of more focused on the photography. And then this year again, we've had more time, and well, I have, with lockdown, and basically, yeah, I did it was a job for like, it was a sponsored post, and they wanted me to turn myself into like a character from a film, and I did Fiona and Donkey. And actually, do you know what, the first one was Fiona and the little gingerbread man. I made the little gingerbread man, but it was literally and the background, you know, when she's looking out of the window, and she's like, I don't know, you know, when he's like presenting Princess Fiona, that one. So I made the backdrop of that. I made the little gingerbread man, and I put up a time lapse, because I just recorded time lapse for fun for it, and people love to see. People were really excited that I'd made it, and I was like, oh, I really forget sometimes that people, because I do physical and digital, I was like, oh, people don't always know. Obviously, they're not going to know what's real and what's an edit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, people liked it. And then I thought for Christmas, I was like, maybe I'll turn myself into Elsa and make Olaf. And I was like, I probably won't be able to make Olaf, but no one needs to know that it happened, because it's just for fun, this one.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was just, I don't know, I was looking at different stuff that I could use, and then my dad was like, I was talking to my dad on the phone. He just knows things. He doesn't even do art. He was like, why don't you use air drying clay? And I was like, all right, okay. And I went and checked it out online, because I was like, I didn't like the idea of clay and putting it in an oven and all that. I felt like it could be a big faff that I wouldn't be able to sort of accommodate, even though it probably isn't, but you know, I was just, I guess it was like my lazy perspective. And then I tried, so I got some air dry clay, and I just watched on YouTube how people kind of use like the structure inside and what they do. And then I just gave it a go, and it was the first structure I'd ever made, Olaf. That's the first, sculpture I've ever made.
That's amazing.
And then Donkey was my second one. And I'm just really, I don't know, I just feel like I feel really lucky to have that I decided to make Olaf, because I've discovered something that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed. It really made me happy to make them and to
Yeah.
paint them, and I feel like it's something that I'm good at, like that I just
Very
found
good
quite
at
easy. Oh, thank you. That I found like quite easy, and so it's something that I've always been able to make stuff and do things
Mhm.
and stuff like that, because I guess when you're like arty, and when I'm doing photography, because I do set design and I do the set stuff,
Right.
it's always been something I did, but I never thought I could, like, I don't know, make props in that way. And then I just did it, and it worked, and now it's like a thing that I'm like absolutely love doing. So, and then
Wow.
like sharing with people. So yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, you're incredible at it, and I was really
Oh, thank
blown
you.
away when I saw the like behind the scenes process. So I'd love to see more from you.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to do more. I'm doing something at the moment, but I'm making like the costume, which is something I haven't
Wow.
done before.
Hmm.
It's not so much like with sewn, but like with foam, because it's kind of like an armory, like an armor kind of thing.
Oh,
I
right.
can't say what it is yet because it's for a job, but so that's something else I'm doing now that I'll probably put a time lapse up for. So I'm
That's
just
so
having a lot of
awesome.
fun making things and finding out like new, because I see it all as a part of my photography, if that makes sense. I feel like
Mhm.
photography can kind of encompass all of that, because it's what I'm
Mhm.
making to go in front of the camera. So I
Right.
it's I'm so happy that kind of like discovered that last year. It's like made me so much happier when I'm creating.
Oh,
Even though
that's
loved photography anyway, it's like
yeah.
really enjoy it now.
That is amazing. You're incredibly versatile, and kind of changing the topic a little bit. You have always been incredible at showcasing body positivity. A lot of the people that you photograph come from all different shapes and sizes and backgrounds, and you're just everyone that you photograph is just in such a beautiful way, and you don't photoshop things out that the media portray as flaws. You're big on body positivity and like sharing different people, and I just think that that is such a beautiful thing. Is that something you've always been
Oh, thank
passionate
you.
about, or is that something like last year you discovered throughout your time?
I think that is something I definitely discovered. I think that when I first started photography, I think you kind of, so I started photography like 10 years ago now. So
Hmm.
when I first started, you kind of look at a lot of photographers out there, you see the ones in magazines, and they're very, very highly edited. So I was just like, well,
Hmm.
that's what we do. That's what photography is.
Right.
Um, Even though when I was editing, I wasn't really thinking about it from what's a flaw and um, what's classed as a flaw or whatever. It's not really a flaw, but
Hmm.
I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was just thinking about that's how a final image should look, really polished. So I wasn't really even thinking about the
Right.
person. And I think that just on my journey of photography, I just really discovered what I believed in that way. And I think one of the things that made me really think about it was I did a shoot for a magazine in the UK called Blogosphere, of
Right.
Megan Crab, Body Posy Panda. And
Hmm.
I think that shoot really, I loved it so much. And it was just, she's like, she's amazing. And I think I realized how much I just loved capturing people without having to feel that pressure of um, just like a really like polished finish. I mean, I never really super edited people anyway, if I'm honest, but
Hmm.
I never thought about it as much. And then I think that was like 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago now. And I think from then it kind of changed my whole way of thinking about shoots. And it's funny that I ever did it differently now. So it's like I think that you can, because I'm someone that edits a lot in terms of
Yeah.
stylistically, like I do huge edits. And I think for me, I like having the balance of, you don't have to edit people.
Hmm.
I mean, you're still stylistically editing
Oh
people,
yeah,
because
of
you want it to
course.
be, the right color tone for that. You
Yeah.
say you've got like a, I don't know, really cool toned image. You want to make
Hmm.
the image like that. Obviously, otherwise it would just be very weird.
Hmm.
And you do all of those stuff. But in terms of airbrushing, it's not something that I think needs to happen. But
Hmm.
you can still be really creative with your editing. And I think it was just
Yeah.
getting that balance, which is now perfect. That's kind of what I love. And I think
Yeah.
hopefully people realize you can do that, because sometimes I think people think when you're doing sort of imagery that's not airbrushing people, that you can't do any sort of edit, like that you
Yeah.
can't. And I feel like it's like, no, you can create. There's so there's a model I work with all the time called Anam Asiyama. She's like one of my favorite models, and she's a black plus size model. And we create some of my most fun pictures, and they're super high edits. Like she's holding like a snake in one of those like giant moon behind, but
Yeah.
you know, she hasn't been airbrushed because she doesn't need to be. So I think it's really nice to have the balance of still being able to have fun with edits but not changing people, if that makes
Right.
sense, which I
Yeah,
like the
definitely.
most. That's my personal preference of doing stuff.
Yeah. I think that balance is very obvious, and I just really think that it's beautiful that you show that side, because not many photographers do that. You know, a lot of photographers think, right, this image has to be this perfect and I have to airbrush all this out so the image looks perfect, so it looks better on me, blah 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 blah. And I think that, you know, it's really good that you showcase that.
Oh, thank you. I think
Welcome.
it's a problem, like, just with media in general. Like I think I think it's in all of us. Like I'm someone that suffers from acne, and you know, you just think that images are meant to be you just think people, I don't know, I just think people, we're kind of all like, it's all in our heads that we have to look a certain way and things have to be a
Because
certain
that's all
way in
you see
media.
everywhere.
It's I think it's changing now though. I do think that we're seeing more, you know, understanding of what's real and what's, you know, edited. I think hopefully it will help people have a healthier mentality, because I think for me, when I see people with a bit of texture on their skin, it's actually quite nice, because I'm like,
oh, they have pores, wow, I didn't know
it's great
that.
to see. So yeah, that's my thoughts, and I think eventually people it will be like, I think it's moving in the right direction for sure. I just hope that people know that they can still, you know, you can still have fun with editing. It's not one, because I think Photoshop, everyone's always like really angry at Photoshop, and I'm like, well,
It has
Photoshop's actually
more features than that.
Yeah, you know, like I can turn someone into a fairy on Photoshop. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to. It's not
exactly. Exactly. And like Lightroom presets and making your own presets and stuff is not airbrushing yourself. It's just changing the colors and everything. Yeah,
exactly.
You, in my mind anyway, are kind of the photographer for like a lot of the British YouTubers. That's, I think, the first photo I saw of yours was the one with Zoe Sugg, because you've worked with Zoella, Zoe Sugg, you've worked with I think you did one with Dan and Phil for the Stand Up to Cancer campaign. You did a lot of photo shoots with that. You've done a few with Carrie Hope Fletcher. You've worked with so many, you know, YouTubers in the UK. Have you kind of, I don't know, how did you get into the YouTube world in the first place? I'm really curious how you kind of got into that.
Well, I do think there are like quite a few. I think there are quite a few photographers now that work with, like, lots of great photographers that work with UK creators. But thank you for that compliment. But I got into it when, how many years ago now? Probably like 6 years ago, if I'm honest. Because my boyfriend was a YouTuber at the time, so I took his pictures for his like YouTube channel.
Right.
And then other like YouTubers like followed me on Twitter and was like, and I was like, oh, hello. And then I think a few of them started following me, and I used to do sort of like quite quirky pictures with my boyfriend and his twin. They had a channel called like Nikki and Sammy.
I used to watch them actually a few years ago.
I'll let them know. So I did some pictures for them, and then I think other people just saw, and then I was like, oh, this could be fun, because at the time I was, you know, working with models and sort of turning them into like fairy tale characters or fantasy scenes and stuff like that. And then I thought, well, what if some of these people would like to be involved with something like that, and then the audience can see, you know, I guess it's seeing some of their favorite people in totally new ways. And that was it really. And I just started I funded them myself, and just was like, reached out to people, and then people said yes. Obviously not everyone says yes, you know, such as life, we all get ignored. But a lot of people do say yes. And then started doing those shoots, and I think it just snowballed from there really. And I think the more I did, and then brands started noticing, and then, you know, I was able to do sort of campaigns with creators or influence YouTubers and it just grew from there, and now I sort of feel like I've been around a long time, so people just are like, oh, it's Linda.
That's so cool. Have you ever worked with, like, I mean, you've worked with a lot of YouTubers, have you ever worked with one who you perceived would be a certain way but they ended up being differently, like positive or negatively?
Not not really, but I tend to detach myself emotionally. Like if someone's a bit funny on a shoot, then I'm just like, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe that is how they are. But I think,
Right.
you know, I tend to just be like, well, it's lovely when you have someone that's really like wants to, you know, have fun and create. I think for me, my favorite kind of people are the ones that are kind of excited to do it. I think that you can always get people that are a bit, you know, I think sometimes people are a bit nervous, so they can come across
Right.
a bit, but that, you know, that's kind of my job to make them feel comfortable and
Yeah.
everything. So that doesn't bother me at all. I think it's the only time it's disappointing is if someone, you know, you've done the shoot, they love the pictures, but when they go to share, they're not really like as good at crediting you, if that makes sense. That's the only
Right.
disappointing
Oh, that's
experiences.
frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know, I've a lot of the ones that I do that are just like my ideas or whatever, and I want to create, like I've funded. So
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
only time where it's a bit disappointing. But in general, I say 99% of the time there's no problems. But you know, just like in life, when you meet different people, you don't get on with everyone. But in
Yep.
general, it's been pretty good. I don't think there's been
Yeah.
anyone that I've been like, you're horrible, go away. I've done anything like that.
That's good. You mentioned that you have worked with brands before, and I've obviously, because I followed you for a while, I've seen that. But you did a shoot. Would it have been either end of 2019 or early 2020? You did a shoot with Bill Skarsgard, who plays Pennywise in the It movies. That was so cool to see. Was that like the first like movie celebrity you've worked with, or have you worked
Yeah.
with others before?
No, and do you know what? I mean, obviously the pandemic has caused issues for everyone in a
Yeah.
bigger scale than this, but I'd been really working for a long time to get to work with mainstream talent in films, and it was
Yeah.
finally taking off, and then the film industry just got destroyed by the pandemic. I
Oh,
mean, not
that's so
destroyed, but you know,
frustrating.
it's like got put on hold, and now,
Right.
you know, it got completely affected, and it's still affected now. So yes, that was my first, you know, after, I mean, a long time of trying to get kind of,
Yeah.
because it is, you know, like I know creators often get opportunities to kind of do junkets and stuff like that, and maybe, and then I think as a photographer, it was like I hadn't seen anyone do it from like a creator's perspective or whatever, because it
Right.
was more like a sponsored post. And but it took so long, and then I finally got the opportunity, and I was so happy. And then more opportunities were coming up, and then obviously the pandemic happened, and all events, you know, opportunities that would arise can't go ahead. But you know, like I'm fully aware that there's been bigger losses than that because of the pandemic. But yeah, I
It's
can't
still
help but be a
relevant though.
little
Everyone's been affected in
frustrated.
different ways.
Yeah, it's sad, but at the same time, I hope that, you know, I love film, and I hope that will pick back up again. I think it's, you
Right.
know, a resilient industry, and I'm sure it'll be fine. It just, yeah, I
For
feel like
sure.
film really got hit hard, didn't it? And like a lot
It
of
did.
the art world and stuff. So
Yeah.
I hope that it will pick back up, and I can continue to do that, because for me that was like a really big moment. And yeah, I'm really proud of that. Like I was really proud that worked
It
out.
was a beautiful shoot. It was so
Thank you.
impressive. The whole thing. It
Thank
was
you.
like a literally like should be on a poster or something if he'd
Thank
been
you.
in his, get up.
I did it in 10 minutes. So I was pretty impressed, because
Wow.
it's very fast paced, like,
Wow.
and I sort of had them for just 10 minutes. So I was really happy with how it turned out. And yeah, I remember just feeling pretty smug for the rest of the day.
I
I was
don't
like,
blame you.
yes.
That's so cool. Well, fingers crossed the world will go back to normal soon, and then you can work with loads of cool
Yeah,
people. And I'll be like,
I hope so.
I talked to her once. She's interviewing all the famous people. Who would you say would be like your dream person to have like in front of your lens, like a YouTuber or celebrity or just non-celebrity?
What can I think about this? Who would it be? I'm trying to think. Do you know? I don't know. Maybe like, oh, I don't know. Do you know what? I really don't know.
There's so many good
I'm trying to
options.
think. Yeah, I think for me, I would be more excited about what it was that I was able to shoot.
Like what it was about. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was like a
Right.
really like cool opportunity where I could get really creative, I think.
Yeah.
I think that do you know what? I don't know. Do you know what? I think Rihanna would be cool. I know that's probably
Oh
really standard,
yeah.
but I just think I feel like everyone would say that, so it's like a standard thing people say, but I just think like or someone like Lady Gaga. Lady
Oh
Gaga's
yeah,
cool
there'd be
because
so
she
much
really,
glam.
yeah. But I think in general, I don't really know. I think, do you know what? I know what I'd be most excited about. And it would be shooting probably for a film like of a character in character. That's probably what I'm
Right.
more excited about than
Yeah.
actual like real people. Even though I'd love that, I think something that would make me most excited would be like, this say a new like I love fantasy films and adventure films. Like if
Mhm.
there was like, oh, we need some press shots and this person's in character and you can go, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that would be exciting for me
That'd be
because I
really
just
cool.
love, and I love like pop culture and stuff.
Do you find it sometimes difficult or a bit of a challenge to work with people who like say have not really any experience being in front of a camera? Because obviously the people that you shoot aren't always professional models. They're just, normal people who are just, photographers have such a way of making people feel comfortable. Good photographers, there's always this thing that if you're a good photographer, you will be able to make people feel comfortable. Do you find that a bit of a challenge, or is it kind of second nature to you now? Okay, stand this way, okay, make this like this, or because they always come out so well.
I actually think most of the people that I work with aren't models.
Mhm.
Obviously there are some models that I do work with like sort of regularly, like I said
Mhm.
about Anam earlier. And obviously creators sometimes they tend to be really confident in front of the camera, and sometimes they tend to be the complete opposite because they're only used to being on video. So when they have
Yeah, that would
stills,
be
they
me.
get a
I'd be
bit
like,
more uncomfortable. Yeah, and I can understand that because I actually personally don't like my photos being taken.
Mhm.
Like I take my own self-portraits for stuff, but that's because it's just me and no one's
Right.
around, you know. So I understand it, but I think in general I'm kind of used to being from the perspective of someone perhaps not being, being able to like just
Right.
throw out moves and like feel really, like I think actually sometimes when I work with models I'm like, oh, and they just like get into poses
Yeah.
and stuff. I'm like, oh cool, and they can just do little things to like tweak and guide them.
Mhm.
But so yeah, I'm actually really used to working with people that aren't comfortable, and sometimes I think it's quite nice because they experience that feeling uncomfortable and then get to the point where they really love the picture of themselves. It's quite like a lovely thing to see, like
Yeah.
people's confidence growing, and then you sort of see people then start getting more confident.
Right.
um, I did a shoot with Michelle Elman. She's a life coach.
Right.
Sorry, I look off, by the way. When I think, I like look off into the
No,
distance.
you're totally fine.
I'm not distracted. I'm just thinking. And yeah, Michelle Elman, she's a life coach and she's an author. And she talks passionately about Asian representation, particularly plus size Asian representation. And we
Right.
did a shoot about that, and it did really really well. And everyone in it, I think there was
Wow.
Michelle. I mean, Michelle's pretty confident in front of the camera. And she always does a great job. And there was another model in the shoot, but then there was 5 other ladies who weren't models. So it was a
Right.
whole doing a group shoot with people that aren't models was quite a challenge. And there was a lot of like
Yeah.
nerves, and there was like, oh, I'm not used to it because I'm not smiling. And then when we got the finished picture, they all absolutely loved it. So I think,
Aw.
and it was a case of like, okay guys, just try and hold it for a bit longer, and they all absolutely smashed it. And that picture went like viral, which I'd never had before, which
That's
was
awesome.
awesome. And when you look at it, I think they all just look like pro models. So
Mhm.
for me, I actually really love it when you have people that aren't normally in front of the camera, because I think it's quite an
Right.
exciting experience for me and for them. And
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, I quite like that. I think that's the best
That's
part.
awesome. That's so cool. Do you prefer to shoot other people versus, well, you said you don't really like taking photos yourself, so I like I guess that answers that question. But do you find that you have more creative freedom when you're just taking a photo of yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I think I like photographing other people the most. I like doing shoots with people. I mean, I miss doing shoots at the moment because we're not really, I mean,
Yeah.
there's certain shoots you're allowed to do at the moment. They're like, for brands, but they're,
Right.
you can't really do certain shoots. And it's also like I've put a lot on, like postponed a lot because I just think it's the best I can do it at the moment. It's the best thing to
Yeah.
do to put it off. And I really miss photographing people,
Yeah.
like it's, yeah, I do miss that. But then, so I love that. But then I also the thing with a self-portrait is there's no one for me to show and be like, are you happy with this? And I always get really nervous at that stage. Like I can't help it. I get so anxious when I send over a picture. I'm like, and I'm like, what if they hate it? What if I've done? And I sit there freaking out. Whereas with me, I'm just like, I don't have to worry. I can just do what I want. And I think I'm not really excited about photographing myself. Like I'm not like, wow, I get to photograph me. But I do get like, I get excited about the possibilities, if that makes sense. So once I get past the fact that I'm photographing myself and like, it's, you know, you're a bit like self-conscious, I guess, and you kind of, it's kind of harder because you've got to set up and then get yourself ready, and it's a whole process. But yeah, once I get past that, I enjoy the freedom.
That's so cool. Do you have like a self timer on the camera, or do you have like a remote?
Yeah,
I imagine it's tough.
Where is it? It's under my bed at the moment. I'm not gonna go get it, but it's like a little remote, and it's got a 2-second delay. So it's like a Canon one.
So could you put it down or hide it?
Yeah. So with the Fiona one, I was like, and then like I'm always doing that. And like if there was like a behind the scenes video, it's just me pressing it and then hiding it. A lot of the time people like, I've had people be like, who takes the pictures? And I'm like, no, it's a self timer. But self timers are great. I think they're great, but it's also like you get in position, you think you smashed it, you walk back up to the camera, or you've got it tethered to a laptop and you're like, oh, it's rubbish. No.
That's so frustrating.
I've always get the shot though.
I bet. I've always loved photography, and I've always wanted to, you know, try it out more, because I remember being like 16 years old and I tried to like make it look like I was levitating. It was terrible, but I made it look like I was levitating by like standing on a stool and pretending I wasn't, and then I took a picture without the stool being there, and oh my god, it was so bad. But I've always and like for my YouTube stuff, I've never worked with a photographer, so any like headshots I've been asked for, I've had to take myself. So I'm like, or like I've got like put my hand up and like hide it, and I'm like looking at the photos, I'm just like in all the photos.
But I have ones like that, so don't worry. Like I have the ones
it's so frustrating. And so I'm always amazed at people that like yourself that take photos of yourself. They're so impressive, because it seems like I just get hot and bothered, and I'm like, oh, why do I bother with this?
I do get quite grumpy sometimes. Like only on self-portrait shoots so I get grumpy. I'm like, oh, it's so annoying now. Like,
you need to clone yourself.
But once you actually get the shot and you're working on it, I quite enjoy that. Like I did one I didn't do it yesterday, but I uploaded it yesterday, like about sleep paralysis. And
I saw that. That was amazing.
Thank you. It was a bit creepy, but I quite like creepy pictures. But and I was laying, so I had to lay. I created my bed on the floor, like duvets and pillows on the floor and stuff. So I was literally laying down, and then I had to get up to check the picture. And then lay back down
no! And then you put the duvet back, and
which was like more effort. But I was really happy with how it worked out. But when I was like laying down all comfy, and I was like, oh, and I had to do it at night time as well because I wanted it to be dark.
Oh, you just want to go to bed.
I was just like, oh, I'm done. But in the end, it's worth it.
Oh, well, I don't take up too much of your time. I just have one more question for you. You work with so many cool brands, and you've done so well for yourself getting into like the industry that you're in. And with any form of creative, you know, career, you've also got to have that side of you that's kind of business savvy as well as the creative side. So you've got to balance two things. What would your best advice be to somebody who wants to become a photographer, like business wise? What would you kind of suggest to somebody?
Well, I'm actually very business minded. I'm very organized. Like everyone that works for me, every time I work with a brand, they're like, wow, I can't believe how organized you are. And I'm like,
I just share your advice, please.
I just think I don't know. I'm just someone that so when it comes to my shoots and stuff, a lot of the time like I'll be organizing the studio, I'll be budget managing, I'll be getting in a team, I'll maybe creating a set, I'll be creating the concept. Sometimes I've pitched it to the brand and had the meetings and do the post-production and then help with the campaign going out. So I have to do a lot of different things. And I don't know, I'm just someone that I'm just very organized. Like I don't know. It's just something that's like I've always been that way. Like it very much stresses me out if I haven't got something done. Sometimes I think I'm too much like that, if that makes sense. I'm a bit too, you know, like and get too stressed. Like I'm the sort of person that if I
Right.
write an email about a shoot and I've got the date, I'll check that date 5 times.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I did say the right date, and then
Yeah.
I'll cross-reference it. And I think one of the really important things is to actually be confident in reaching out to brands and reaching out to
Right.
different people, making connections and having really good communication and just being like on top of it. I think so, because I
Right.
often work with brands and then often with creators, like kind of sometimes on campaigns, like I see both sides. Sometimes people just aren't on it with like how they communicate professionally,
Right.
and they sort of let themselves down a little bit. I don't think people realize, and I understand that life gets busy, but I think really, for me, thinking about how I come across on emails, how on it I am, and then also just like being hopefully good to work with, I think it does make a difference. I think, you know, the industries are small, and I just try to do the best I can for clients and try to work with people how I would like to be worked with.
Right.
And yeah, I love organizing things. I
That's
like
great,
lists. I like
though.
to-do lists. I have a to-do list
Right.
every day.
Good for you. I was
day
going to
I've got time.
say, that's great though. I was going to say, do you have like a journal where you write everything down, or is it all kind of like, you know, in a calendar online that you have?
I do it on my notes
plan
app.
so much.
Yeah, I do it on my notes app. I
Right,
used to write
okay.
it down, but now I have it on my notes app on my phone,
Mhm.
and then I have it on my calendar as well. Like if I don't have a to-do list written for the next sales in my calendar, it stresses me out a lot. Like I'm not
Right.
saying these things like I'm really organized, like it's a really good thing. I think it is a good thing, but it's also quite, I get a bit, you know, it can be a bit, sometimes I think it is too much, but I think it's really good to have a to-do list though, and have like a plan for stuff. And then like, you know, because if it's good to, for me, I plan everything. Like on a shoot, I do call sheets, I do schedules, and you know, even if you go over the schedule, because sometimes it happens on a shoot, it's fine because you just adjust it. And it's really good to have. I just think to-do lists and schedules are just really helpful for people, especially right now. I think it's really hard to be, sometimes during the pandemic, quite hard to be motivated. So I find that to-do list helps me. But also it's fine to have days where you don't want to do anything. That's absolutely fine too.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's something I need to get myself into a bit more, is because I'm really bad at organizing things. And I mean, I'm good at organizing. It's sticking to it that I'm bad at. So
I mean, I'm not perfect at that. I can't lie.
Yeah.
I do that as well. It's hard, especially when it's like your own projects where you know you're creating and it's not maybe for a brand. It's harder sometimes to stick to it. I think it's, you know, it's harder to motivate yourself. But yeah, I'm all about lists.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that advice. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Yeah, thank you to everyone listening. If you want to check Linda out, if you want to say all your social media so they can go and follow you.
Yes, I am at Linda Blacker on Instagram, and then at Linda Blacker on Twitter, and that's it. That's me. So you can find me.
Oh, make sure you go check Linda out. She's awesome. Just go and check out her photographs. You won't be disappointed. They're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you so much to everyone listening. Take care of yourselves. Thank you, Linda, and we'll see you in the next episode.